Okay, good. So let's start. So Meena, as I was saying, you were in the tech industry for around 20 plus years.
Yeah.
And then there was a moment in time when you decided, okay, I need to write this book. What happened? Just give us a brief background of where it all started.
Okay, so hi everyone. I'm very excited to be here, and it's very hard for me to pin the moment when I decided to write the book because it was part of a overall journey. Part of my story as well. Like I started in tech, like all of you here. Started as an engineer, and everything was going fine for a while until I started climbing the ladder. First, it was just becoming a senior engineer. I mean, the roles were a little different back then, the wordings, but fundamentally, the career path was the same. You move up and you move into leadership. And what happened was, along the way, I started hitting multiple transitions. Like I moved country, I became a mom, and there were lots of parts of my journey where I felt completely out of depth, but then just soldiered on, powered on. And I thought everything was fine, until I actually found the right support, and it made a big difference. And then I thought that was the end of the story, right? Like I had figured out my life journey, and I was getting better. Even when I was hitting challenges, I knew how to navigate them. But then there was a certain point in my career where I started coaching teams as an agile coach. And as you all know, the whole agile movement, you have a scrum master in the team, but then it started moving into the engineering management function. So right now, generally, the engineering manager does a lot, take care of the team in many ways. So I was working closely with engineering managers during a significant period of my career, and I started noticing certain struggles that didn't have anything to do with Agile. It didn't have anything to do with Scrum or Kanban or, are you doing points? So usual questions, right? It had nothing to do with any of those. And I was researching, I was trying to find out because I tend to pay attention to the system. And that was when I found a stat that, 60% of new managers get no support, and 20% are actually rated poorly by their teams. That is one in five. And 60% is quite a big section, right?
Mhm.
So when I spoke to these leaders, I could see that it was more a psychological journey, it was something internal. Lots of times the word they would use was imposter syndrome. It's a very common word, but there's a lot underneath that word that's used, and it's a very personal journey. So even if you say imposter syndrome, everybody's version of it looks very different. So that was how I got started, and getting to write the book was a result of writing on all these things, and then having there was a moment when somebody asked me, why don't you compile all your writings and make it a book? And then I decided, okay, fine, let me give it a go. So it took me a good chunk of time, some 7, 8 months, but then I got there, and that's how it happened.
Good, good. Yes. Well, 7 months is a good time. It's not a bad time to come up with a book. Fantastic. I have read your book, and I think as I was going through it recently, I read it, and as I was going through it, there were a lot of things that just hit me in terms of like, oh yes, of course, because when I first became an engineering manager, which was quite a few years back, but it's like those are the kind of things that nobody tells you. You just go through it, you're thrown into the deep end. It all feels like a promotion at that point, because I was a senior developer and then became a lead. At some point you start looking after people, you're giving them technical direction, but slowly the people management side creeps in. And then one day your boss comes to you and say, oh, you know what, there is a manager position open, would you like some? And it just becomes like, oh yes, of course, I have been working so hard for this is a promotion. So, in your book, I think you have very well phrased it as yes, it's a promotion, but it's not really a promotion, right? So, do you want to elaborate a little more on that aspect? Because that really struck with me.
Yeah, yeah, you described it very well. I think um, what happens is typically you're moving along a linear path, right? Like before this point where you get promoted to becoming a leader, uh, you're doing you're doing technical work. Probably your span of control increases as you move up, like to senior engineer, and as you will automatically be mentoring developers, and you will be very good at your job for you to be considered as leadership material, right? You must have done really well to get to that point. But where it gets interesting is there's a fork on the road, which is why it's a different path, right? You have the management path and you have the technical path. You can stay on, you can become a staff engineer or a principal engineer. Now that's a path where you still have to deal with people because you need to influence direction, you need to influence strategy. But when you get to the management part, the path ahead cannot be seen from that point. Even though people tell you, right, you're stepping into management or, there's a different track. Most companies have career frameworks, so they write it. Now, this is a very good thing. There's a lot of visibility. It's all written down. Behaviors are written down. But reading those behaviors and living them in the day to day, actually knowing what they mean are two different things. So what happens is when you move into the management path, it seems like a promotion. It's a reward for technical excellence, for showing you can lead, for showing you can maybe make a difference to that team of people that they're considering you to lead. But that's where it stops. After that, your responsibilities completely change because now you're in charge of people's careers. You're accountable for a lot of other things that don't depend on your personal contribution, which was your main way of deriving value as an IC. And why this is not a promotion is we're all human. We all want to be rewarded. We want kudos. We want to feel like we are valued, we are contributing. And suddenly the kinds of contribution we're used to disappears. And you're in this new role and you're like wondering what you're doing to yourself. So that's why I said it's not a promotion. It's a change. You're switching tracks actually to a different way of doing things. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think a very good point you have touched upon there is you are an individual contributor till that point, and you have this whole thing like, I have control. I know, this code is breaking here, or I need to fix here. And then suddenly you are dealing with people, process, not just technology. And then suddenly you feel, okay, now I'm really out of my depth here. So, in terms of the technical aspects, because even when I moved from being a lead to engineering manager, the first thing that strikes you, right, you have to sort of step away from the keyboard. And that is very difficult. Like, even now, after so many years, I think I still struggle where that instant gratification you don't get, which you get when you deploy your code and everything is working. So, what are your thoughts on that? Just you can walk us through that.
Yeah, so this is a very good point because leadership impact is very different to how your impact as an individual contributor is.
Absolutely.
When you're an individual contributor, it's more visible. You can measure it, right? Like you have committed something. You know that the tests are passing. You know that you can deploy and everything's working. So there's a lot of tangible things you can point to and say, I've done this. And you're very right. It gives you that gratification because our brain releases dopamine every time we do something. And of course, it's a good dopamine in this case because you finish something, and that's fine. But what happens when we move to leadership? Um, the impact is much harder to measure, and it's on a larger time frame. Like if you have had a very good one-to-one with someone and made a difference, uh, sometimes it's not very visible. You might have given them some difficult feedback for which they will be grateful 2 years down the line. But in that moment, you're met with that messy situation where you are actually doing something. So there's a tendency to miss that old life where things were simpler, right? Where you're responsible for yourself.
Yeah.
And now you're actually responsible for other people, and you're doing these hard things like navigating conflict, giving feedback, having difficult conversations, which nobody would say, right? Let me have a cup of tea. Now I'll go and have a It's not a very natural thing. It's not something we welcome. So it's like a hard switch, and so the metrics for leadership, for being a good leader, is something we have to internally develop ourselves so that we can start recognizing where we have made that difference. And that's the work that we will have to individually do to get to that
Yes,
point.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. No, I completely agree. I sit on one-on-ones, and I just hope by the end of the day I've made difference to somebody's life somewhere.
I'm sure you have.
But then it, sort of it's a really slow burn, right? Because it happens slowly over time. And then comes December or January when the annual reviews happen. And then you start getting this feedback, 360-degree feedback. And then you feel, okay, fine. You know what? I think I did my job at some
You
point.
did your job. Yeah, 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 yeah.
So, absolutely. I can completely relate to that. Let's just pause for a minute. In case someone has any questions, anything at this point.
Well, I mean, I do. It's not really much of a question. It's more following up with the conversation they're already having, where Meena, you said something about it's for somebody that wants to make the transition or somebody that is going into that new role. It's something that they have to develop within themselves. But how will you know, for example, Madura, when you were a lead and then you were making that transition to engineering manager, how did you know that you were ready for that transition, or what should people look out for them to be able to assess that they are ready for that transition or ready to move on to that next level?
So was that to Madhura?
No, no, you go
No, it
ahead.
was to you. Oh, I know. Yeah, it was to you.
Okay, all right. So it's uh, currently that is part of the gap, because the misconception is that, even though we have these two tracks, you can stay technical or you can move into management. The management part, the transition, I have called it a hidden transition because it's not well understood. It's not spelt out that there will be a period where, you are in transition. You will be having certain psychological processes going on internally, which you will have to maybe take stock of, so there's no moment for that. But it can be navigated. That's the good news. It's not easy, but it's like anything, right? There is growth there that you will have to navigate, and then when you do that, you grow both as yourself and into the leader that is aligned with your value system. And so that's the part there to keep in mind.
Yeah,
There
I
is
think.
no one way, there's no cookie cutter approach to
No.
knowing.
Yeah, I completely agree with Meena. It's the values that you carry, and you want your team to have those, or, and there will be a shift which you can probably make out for yourself. And that moment, I mean, it's up to you to understand or realize, is because as growth comes and you're looking at, individual contribution, at some point you realize that if I'm helping my team, as a team, they can do much more than what I'm doing, and the value there is quite substantial. I think that realization, because you need to be, it's more like, I'll help you to succeed, I'm not doing the work. That shift needs to happen. And that's where I think that to me at least was the turning point, where, okay, fine, I enjoy developing or growing people.
Mm.
Probably that's something on that particular path. Is there anything like you can recognize as a, some sort of a pattern, anything there, Meena?
Yeah, I think you touched on a very important point. So there are two parts. Now, if you are more interested in influence through the technical side, right? Like you want to stay technical, but you want to have a different sort of influence, then the technical path is for you. But if you're interested in people,
Yeah.
as Madhura said, right? You get satisfaction from growing. You see, seeing others grow and develop, then the management path is for you. Because if you don't have that, then what happens is the job becomes very annoying. It becomes difficult, because that is the primary source of satisfaction. Everything else is around it, like what you deliver, all of that is through people, it's through the team. And so that is a, I think, prerequisite if you want to step into leadership.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And does that help you, Aya?
Yeah, that makes sense. That mindset
There's a
shift
lot of
needs to
that.
happen. It
Yeah,
needs to happen.
There's
I
no
get that.
map, unfortunately. There is nothing like a map.
Yeah.
But I think it's more to do with how much you like, growing people. Because at times it does become like, having the one-on-ones, listening. It's active listening, and it does become draining if you don't enjoy that. And I think you have touched upon a very good point, Amina, is the team, right? At that point, your dynamics also is shifting. You have got a promotion. You have moved from being a peer to everyone to being a manager now. Suddenly, you will be doing their reviews. You will be approving their leaves. And how does that shift? How do people navigate that, and what
yeah.
happens?
So for a first time manager, that's one of the trickier aspects of the transition, especially if you've been like internally promoted, right? You have a group of peers and you've been picked from the peer group to lead. And the challenge there is, right, you might have friends in the team. And so you might have to renegotiate the boundaries of those friendships. And this is not a trivial thing, because having a friend at work is actually found to positively correlate with your well-being. It's also a question on the Gallup employee satisfaction survey, engagement survey, and they actually ask, do you have a best friend at work, something like that. But it's because we spend such a huge amount of time at work that having these social bonds, social connections helps us. So when you're promoted within the same team, suddenly you are no longer the peer of your once friends, and you have to figure out how to be with them now. And it's awkward for them as well, right? There's lots of complex things that can happen in that space. Somebody might have wanted the promotion, but you might have got it. Or, like you don't want to appear like you're favoring somebody over a different person. So you start thinking about, am I doing this right? Am I doing that wrong? That sort of dynamic. Or in some cases, I've seen there are senior developers in the team. They do not want the leadership position. So somebody is promoted within the team, but then they come up against this other power center in the team, and that can be very tricky to navigate, because you're no longer technical, but you still want to influence, and then there's this other person. So for situations like this, actually having somebody to talk to is invaluable, And first of all, acknowledging that yes, the relationships have changed. Now I have to figure out what I want now, and having those conversations openly. So if you have a best friend, maybe sitting down and sharing, right now, okay, this has happened. How being open and transparent with them, not easy at all, awkward, but
Yeah.
necessary. So, that's the thing, right? If we avoid the hard conversations, we don't make things easy for us. We just kick the ball further down the line. Whereas if we have the hard conversations, life becomes easier. But then that is a skill to develop. How do we have the courage to do these things. So yeah, so the relationship configuration is a big part of the transition. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Where do you start such a one-on-one? Because I can imagine it would be very tricky. In my case, it was fairly okay because I was senior enough, and
Yeah.
so my team was fairly like. So I had that sort of not authority, but at least that the relation that the dynamics was different. But I can imagine that having somebody, couple of seniors in your team, and you're not the senior most at that point, how would you navigate such a one-on-one, or what do you do at that point?
So I think first thing is to, it is difficult. So first thing is to do some sort of a sit down with yourself and acknowledge that, right? Things have changed. Um, do a small relationship audit. In some cases, you might not have to do anything, but in the first one-on-one, just getting to know the people and asking them, what they need from you, building
Yeah.
that trust is helpful. But if there is a specific challenge, for instance, friendships, right, then it's good to have an open conversation, like, hey, I know that we've been friends and how are you feeling about it? Good to ask open questions, right? They might not say anything, but they might appreciate the fact that you've had the conversation. And you can also tell them that you need their support because you're stepping up. So this is another thing, right? You ask them, you can tell them, that acknowledge that this is a success, but it's dependent on the team and that sort of thing. So different things feel intuitive to different people, but that the key there is not to avoid it because it becomes very weird. There are a lot of vibes that, and then
Uh,
people notice that because there's that awkwardness in the team room.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
absolutely. And I think that awkwardness doesn't help with the delivery either, right? Because you need the team to deliver, and then that awkwardness is like, okay, I don't know how to tell them what to deliver. So yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing I've realized is it's very simple question like, how do I help you? Do you want me to intervene? Do you want me to just hear you out? That itself helps because I have direct reports which will sort of have lots of issues, something to talk about, but there's nothing they want. They just want me to hear them out. And, it's
yeah,
so
yeah,
feel I'm just okay, listening, fine. That's about it.
yeah,
So
yeah. They're venting, right? They're getting that, and that
exactly.
somebody listening to them validates their experience. So that's an excellent point. Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. It's asking, what do you need from me? Is that
yeah,
simple as that?
yeah.
That's a good thing because, again, you have mentioned in your book, if I remember correctly, something gilded cages. Is that
Yeah, gold gilded
right?
cages.
Yes,
Yeah,
I remember reading that. Yeah. If you want to just
yeah.
elaborate on that, I remember that reference.
Sure. So it is just a metaphor. Why I used this metaphor was a very difficult part of the transition is there are parts of your technical identity that are very cherished. Like, you like yourself in a certain way. And identity itself is a very complex, nuanced thing, So um, part of your technical identity is built from your past track record. So your successes, what makes you good, your strengths, the fact that people come and ask you for help, that sort of thing, right? So when you move into leadership, um, you are attached to these parts and you're attached to these strengths, and they form the bars of this gold gilded cage. But you don't know you're in it because it is not in conscious awareness. So it can feel like you're trapped. But then, if we don't realize that, those strengths can hold us back and we need to maybe flex them in different ways or evolve them so that they suit our leadership self better, then we'll be trapped. We'll be in the shiny cage with these past achievements, but we won't be able to move forward. And that's why I use that reference to say it's a gold gilded cage. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
absolutely. I remember reading that, and yeah, absolutely. It does, because at that point, you're shifting your identity, sort of, right? When you're becoming a manager, you're letting, it's not like letting go, but there's always that fear that, oh, I'm going to be stop being a technical person. People may not come to me for technical, but that doesn't happen. Actually, you do set a technical direction,
Yeah.
and but in a different way. You're not writing code, you're not that shift does happen, but it's, it's very individualistic at that point.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So good. And so now I can't leave you without asking, bringing AI into this whole discussion, right? Because we are in the AI world, and how can I not bring that in? So what shift have you seen in terms of AI and, the coaching that you provide, or when you talk to people, especially the new managers, or, someone approaching you? What sort of a shift you're seeing? What's happening in that area?
Okay. AI is a very, very interesting space. It's an evolving space. When people say they're using AI, I think what they mean is LLM, some sort of chat GPT or Claude or something, right? The way I see it in my work with the engineering managers I work or who I have conversations with is AI is very popular because it's starting to do a lot of the grunt work. Traditionally, communication was a very important or a big part of leadership, right? You communicate well as a leader, and communication is written communication, spoken communication, all of this. Now with AI, you don't have to spend like 1 hour writing a difficult email. You can use a tool and you can write it much quicker. So people are using it to make life easier.
Correct.
Where it's a red flag for me, and what I'm seeing is that people do come to me and say, I use AI to give me advice on how to deal with maybe a difficult situation. And then I asked them, how did it go for you? Did it work? Because I've met managers who say, I'm not feeling confident when I'm with the team, and I can see the pattern. So if you become overly reliant on an AI tool uh, to communicate for you, to think for you, it's not even communicate, it is to do the thinking. Then when you're in a real life situation, you haven't developed or you haven't learned the behaviors, the leadership behaviors to actually behave in a certain way. Like you might freeze when it comes to being assertive, or you might not be able to think how to give somebody feedback. Uh, so it's good to develop these muscles consciously. There's deliberate practice, right? And we have to remember the one of the core functions of easy tasks, like anything, even 1 plus 1 is 2, is so that we can then do that to do the higher level tasks. And I can appreciate that not all of these low level tasks are needed, but we have to be conscious that we still develop our
Yeah.
ability to think and reason in complex environments. And there, AI is not helping. So I do see managers coming to me, and after they have tried AI, and then saying, okay, this has been difficult for me. Can we talk about it? And why is it different having somebody, a human being, talk to you is that I'm not trained on data sets, so I just focus on the person. So I'm not assuming that there's a certain pattern, probably a white male pattern, right? Because a lot of the LLM training data sets reflect the biases that exist in the world. But I pay attention to you as a person, and I'm looking at your beliefs, your fears, what's underneath the surface for you. And so that's where working with a human being is different to an AI. So I would say use it sparingly, use it to make life easier, but don't allow it to think for you. You still practice and you still do the hard bits. Don't avoid the hard bits to
Yeah.
develop as a leader. So, yeah.
I think, yeah, I can imagine like going into a one-on-one, asking a question. Okay, tell me now, and then you're like, okay, right? The answer doesn't match what the person is telling me at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it does come with experience and where to use sparingly, and definitely. There's another, I know we are nearing the hour, but one more thing I wanted to just briefly touch upon is in your book, you have challenged natural leaders, right? You're not
Yeah.
born for natural leaders. What is the premise behind it? It's like a wrong concept. What's happening there?
So it's a very commonly held myth that I see that some people are born natural leaders. We are in a woman coding community, so this is very relevant to us. And this myth typically, is perpetuated from a lot of things we've seen in movies, we've seen in politicians, we've seen outside. And we assume that there is a certain kind of leader who just has gravitas, can speak, is a certain, it's nonsense. It doesn't exist. People may choose to lead or not to lead. That is their personal choice. But there are as many different kinds of leaders as there are people. Because we were talking about identity, right? Identity is like an iceberg. So there's a lot underneath the surface that we don't see, but that's our foundation. And if we develop that foundation, then we develop a leadership style that is authentic to who we are. But if we ignore that, then we start copying these natural leaders. For instance, you might look at people look at maybe Churchill, or maybe some of the presidents and politicians. But then we can't lead like them because they're different people. Their life experiences are different, right?
Yeah.
So that's what and what the other side to the natural leaders is that when people can't lead, they assume they don't have it. So they're like, leadership is a natural thing. If I'm not able to lead, it's because I'm not cut out to be a leader, as opposed to I need the support.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
the problem there. That's the problematic aspect of it.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah, you can always improve on a skill, right? It's
Yeah.
after all, absolutely. We have one question, Meena.
Yeah. So we do have a question, but I just wanted to follow up on something that you mentioned. If, for example, if someone is a senior engineer and they are having like looking into moving to like an EM role for the first time, would you advise them to consider making that lateral move within their current team, or that they've already worked within, or would you advise them to go for maybe like a new team within a new company? What effects do you think that has? Because starting a new job, for example, you need to learn more about the company and then about your team, and then having to have the role of being a new engineering manager in such a new team as well, like in a new company. I feel like that would have you need to do a lot more. So what
Yeah.
route would you advise anyone trying out the engineering manager part for the first time? Like, what route do you think is much better for them, or is a lot more kinder for
Yeah,
them?
yeah. So it's an excellent question. I think a lateral move is always a good idea because you can try it out, right? But this is just my thinking. If there's a steep learning curve and you are in a team where you already know a lot about the team, it gives you some source of comfort to then lead the people in the same team. There will be challenges, of course, like we were talking about the reconfiguration of relationships and things like that. However, the confidence you have, maybe you know the systems well, maybe you know the stakeholders, maybe you know the environment, you have a pre-existing relationship with your manager, all those things will help you. And it's a known area. So even with the parts that who don't help, you still have a pretty good idea about what's working and what's not. If you're going to a completely new company, you add a lot more to the leadership journey because you will also be learning. There will be a steeper learning curve. Some people prefer that. They might want to have a fresh start. But this is just my thinking. What do you think, Madhura? What is your view on that?
It is definitely easier within the company, I would say, because you are aware of ways of working. You know your boss. You know lot many people. The biggest challenge, the systems you know about. Even after so many years, when I changed, and I recently changed 1 year back, I changed my job. There is a lot you have to do, right? Because the trust you have to establish with your new team is the biggest challenge that you would ever face, because it's not about system learning, it's not about the environment, it's how do you bond with completely new team. So I think if you're doing a lateral move within your company, at least, yeah, you might have some challenges. They might be your friends, peers, and now your manager. But it's definitely easier because that bond is there. That trust level is there. Okay, I trust this person. I can probably ask for their help. When you are new to another company, it is definitely much more. It might work out in your favor if, in case you find really good people. There are certain things not working out in your current job. Maybe it might be an option, but I would say definitely it's easier if you're moving up in the same company. I mean, given my experience,
No,
it
that makes sense. I mean, that was what I was thinking as well. But some people might also like the option of wanting to start afresh, as you mentioned. But yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for answering that.
starting fresh is definitely an option if you have had some sort of, not a great relationship. There are clashes, you can't get along. Then it's easier to just start afresh and have a good, like a plain slate, clean slate, and just start everything fresh. But the challenges are, I don't think, will diminish either ways. I think
Yeah.
becoming manager has its own challenges.
Yeah. And the other part, right? If you really want to move into an engineering manager role, but a lateral move is not possible for some reason in your company, then yes, considering if an opportunity comes your way through your network or you see something outside, it's always good to explore it and
Then
see.
one thing I would like to add is, at least with my direct reports or some, who want to move into this area, there's one way to look at it is talk to your manager and
Yeah.
say that, okay, I want to try out this engineering manager role. And maybe, so it's not like you are the engineering manager at that point. You slowly start doing, it's like, let's say for 6 months or 3 months, I'll try it out. They are, let's say you're reporting to an engineering manager, right? They are your fallback because they are accountable for, they are responsible for all the people side, everything, but you get to experiment a little. So that's another way of looking at it, talking to your manager and saying, okay, can I try it out for some time? And if it doesn't work out, then you always have a way out, right? You can just back out and say, no, I don't want to do this anymore. I'll follow the staff engineer or principal engineer path.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Treat it as an experiment, right? You
Yeah.
can learn and figure out how you want to go.
At
And
that point, it's on your manager because they will be there as a fallback, right? Something doesn't go back, they are go well, they are your fallback. It's fine. They will take
yeah,
the responsibility. But I mean, you have to talk to your manager and they have to agree. But
yeah, yeah.
that's the way. Ira, do you want to take the questions in the chat? Because I know it is.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So, Oyin asked, what are the key skills one must have to begin to aspire to a managerial role in tech? So, if you even want to think about like exploring, like what key skills should somebody be aware of? So, in case they don't have it, then they can start developing or something.
So I think the foundational thing, I won't call it a skill. I think you must like working with people. Because if you don't like that, then maybe that path is not for you. Like some people prefer working by themselves and they get a lot of satisfaction from that. That's completely fine. And I'm not talking about introverts, extroverts. It gets these terms sometimes get confusing. You can be a very good introverted engineering manager. I'm talking about your source of satisfaction, right? If you're the kind who likes to do a project on your own and you like to really go deep into the code and do it, then and you're not so interested in developing people, like sitting through a one-to-one or having meetings, then maybe that path is not for you. Um, Skills wise, I would say there are more capabilities because you will discover your own strengths and do the how to work towards the outcome you want with your team in your own way. So I'm a big advocate for strengths, and so I wouldn't pin it on any one skill. But yeah, Madhura, you might have some views here. So what do you think?
Um, I think you have put it rightly. It's more of, do you get the pleasure out of developing others, growing others? Because if you are, what are you looking for? Let's say you work for the whole year with a person and you want to progress them from mid to senior level. Is that going to make you happy at the end of it, or are you going to be more happy deploying a full-fledged production system and the client is using it? That itself will help you think as to, okay, what makes me happy? Am I creating a technical framework for the team to use, or a promotion for somebody? Is that what that is? A very generalized version, but that might help you just to align your thoughts. But having said that, engineering manager is about, I consider it as people, process, and technology. So it becomes like a really difficult job, because now you're balancing three things. It's not just people, it's just not the processes, and it's actually to do with delivery as well. So if you can't align people to the team's goals or mission, you're not going to get delivery out of them. So that it's a very tricky balancing act, I would say. And if you enjoy balancing and dealing with people, then yes, that would be something you should explore. But as I said, always talk to your manager and see if there is some sort of way for you to experiment before jumping full on deep end. So that definitely, I would say. There's another
Yeah.
question.
Yeah. So also from Oyin, what are the benefits of being an engineering manager? Do you think it's for everyone?
Benefits. So yeah, I mean, see, it's a promotion, right? Like it's a promotion, but a path change. So all of the benefits that you get from moving up, the visible benefits are all there. You're moving up the ladder, you're going for a more senior role, a leadership role. You probably will get paid more. All of these benefits are there. So there's an increase in your monetary status and other things, right? But apart from that, it could be very fulfilling and satisfying for you if you enjoy that kind of work. So, do you think it's for everyone? Probably not. Uh,
Probably.
but I also think people decide probably not based on the fact that they don't get support. So, when you're in that gray area, don't write yourself off. Think, is this like because I'm bad at it and I really don't like it? Or is it that I need some personalized guidance and support by drawing on, my manager, maybe community, working with a coach, whatever, works for you. Think about it from that point of view and see what you arrive at. So yeah.
Yeah, and that's true. I mean, even with whether it's principal engineer or engineering manager, there are times when you feel like, yes, I should have some support, somebody to talk to, and whether it's a mentor, it's a coach. So, and as you said, it's not for everyone, but you should not just say, no, it's not for me. I would put it that way, as you need to explore it more. The path that it goes on to, you might become a VP, you might become a director, because you're managing more people, you're dealing with people. So that's the trajectory of your career progression. So if you see yourself as, or you want to be a director or a VP, probably this is one of the paths you can take. That is not to say that the principal engineers don't go down this path, but it's difficult. Principal engineer, if you might go down a CTO path or something. It wouldn't be a VP. So that's another way of looking at it as, 4 or 5 years down the line. Where do you see yourself? Do you want to be VP of engineering, director of engineering, or something else? So that is another way of looking at, what do I want to progress as?
Yeah.
So that's another way of looking. Any other questions from anyone? I think we can do the raffle, I hope. Or
Yes.
there is I had one question, but then I think we're a little short on time, probably 3 minutes. If you can make it really quick, Meena,
Yeah,
what
sure.
was the hardest chapter when you started writing?
Um, so it wasn't one chapter. It was more about, like I started the book with a lot of enthusiasm. And then in the middle, I was like, will people read this? It was that inner voice that said that, and then I had to go back, read the first few chapters, and come back. That happened somewhere during the midpoint of my journey when I was writing about support. The other challenge was how much to put in the book. I had a lot, but not all of it was coherent and belonged in this particular thing. I might have to find a different way to write about certain other kinds of themes. So these were the big challenges that I saw, sustaining the excitement that I started with. But that's the case with even journeys, right? Like the beginning is exciting, then you hit that block. So,
Yeah, no, I completely understood. I even after so many years, I might just hit a block at some point. I'm like, okay, now questioning what choices have I made? So I completely understand.
yeah, yeah. So that's what it was. Yeah.
We do have
Is
one
enough.
more question.
We
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. So Ramona asked, how can we become good managers? Are there any courses or volunteering opportunities that can help us build these management skills before we officially become managers? I think you mentioned also having that opportunity within your current role, asking your current
Yeah.
manager if you can try it out. But are there like maybe courses or any other opportunities that people can try?
So courses, I don't know. So lots of people read books and things like that. It's always a good idea. I would say try everything. Try going to meetups, uh, read books, and then also like talk to other engineering managers to see how they have navigated their transition. Work with mentors and coaches because that makes a big difference. I'm very grateful to my mentors and coaches because they really really helped, like unblock certain inner questions I had and doubts that I had. So yeah, I would say try all of it. Add a good mix into your support structure and that'll help you navigate it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, and how can you become a good manager? That's a very, very difficult question to answer, I think. But experimenting and trying, reaching out and talking to people, gaining either mentor or coaching, it would definitely help.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think I was thinking
Okay.
more along the line that you can always be a manager even without a title. So if you show that to your team and how you talk to people and how you support people, then that is a good way to building that trust and your skills and your confidence in how
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, there is definitely. I mean, title is not the all of it because even when I was a tech lead, I was doing a lot of the manager activities. But there is a difference, right? Between being a tech lead, you're not fully responsible for the growth of the person. And that, I think, as an engineering manager, then it is your responsibility to grow them in your career. So that sort of, that is where you might need some help with either coaching, mentoring, something, or some sort of guidance or some sort of way to try out that, that scenario where you are working with people and trying to grow them. So definitely it's exploring is one way to definitely look at it. Ira, are you putting in the names in the?
Yeah, we're all ready to go.
Oh, cool. Do you want to
Yeah,
share your
share
screen?
my screen. Yes.
Absolutely.
I'll just do this one.
So, is everyone from UK based out of who has joined?
Yeah, oh, we did not ask where you were joining us from.
No,
But
if you are in UK, then I think Meena can ship you the book.
Yeah.
Otherwise, give you a PDF.
yeah. I've
Yeah.
also added my name as well because I would love to have the book if it
Sure.
manages to land on my name. But Yeah, okay. I'll just give it a spin now. Land on me, land on me. No.
Oh,
Oh, Ramona,
Oh,
No, I can't believe
the second one.
congrats.
Congratulations.
Thank
brilliant.
you.
There's so
Okay,
much of an
Amazing.
to have Ramona.
great.
Sorry.
How can I get the address? Will somebody give it to me?
Ramona, I think if you can send me or Ira
Yeah.
your address, then we can pass it on to Meena.
Thank
Great.
you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. My pleasure. So, yeah.
Fantastic. That's fantastic. We had a really, really good conversation, Meena. I was really, like, a little apprehensive, never done this before.
Yeah.
I think it was a good one.
Yeah. Thank you for inviting me. I really enjoyed talking through everything and listening to your experiences as well. So, yeah, thank you for that.
Lovely to have you. And thanks everyone for joining. And hopefully we should see you sometime soon then. So thank
I
you.
do have a question. In case anyone else also wants to have a read of the book, can we get it on Amazon or how
Yes,
can
you can
we
get
get?
it. Shall I pop the link here just in
Yes,
case?
Yes, please.
for
Okay.
unlucky people like me that did not win.
Okay, you can connect with me on LinkedIn as well. Let me just share. Sorry, I'm a little slow with this.
Yeah, that was a good shout, Ira. I forgot. Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's a Kindle version as well, right? Both paper and Kindle.
Yeah, there's a Kindle version as well. Yes, if you click on that link, just have a look.
Let me click and see. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that works for me. Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Yeah.
I'll also share it on Slack as well in case anyone wants to bookmark it. And
Absolutely. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for
thank
having
you.
me. And thanks, everyone.
Ira is such a lovely host that she will remember everything. I don't know.
Lovely.
Ira.
Thanks, Aida.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Take
Bye.
care. Bye. Bye.
Let me stop the recording. Can we stop?